Welcome back to the Inner Compass, the Soul to Self podcast. Great to have you here with me. It's been a little while since our last season and longer than I had hoped, in all honesty. But in that pause between the two seasons, something came up for me, and it was that time has a way of really slipping through your fingers. When you don't need space for what really matters, that time very quickly gets absorbed with other things that you might prioritize that don't quite matter as much. So here I am on the new moon as well, recording this episode, and I'm so excited for this season. This season is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be solo episodes with a few bonus guest episodes, which is exciting because I have got some amazing people that I'm talking to over the season. Now, I think this season is going to be quite a lot about burnout and overwhelm and how you can protect yourself and how you can look after yourself. And this episode especially is going to take a deep focus on that. And we're going to talk about the truth about burnout and why you're not broken. Now, I'm using that title, The Truth About Burnout and Why You're Not Broken, but I'm going to confess that that word to me carries a lot of weight, more than we realize, the word broken. And you've probably heard it. You've maybe even said it to yourself, I feel broken. And it's kind of something that comes up in that spiral of overwhelm and burnout. And it sits heavy. And like for a lot of women who have been holding too much, and it kind of goes in the back of our minds in those moments where we don't feel like ourselves, when we're really tired, we're overwhelmed, we feel unseen, and we just don't know what to do. But I want to say something really clearly, and that is, I hate the word broken. It's not just that it's a strong word, it's that it's really inaccurate. And it implies that if you're broken, then there is something wrong with you, some kind of damage that can't be undone. It suggests you're less than whole. And that's not true. When you drop a glass on the floor, you're not going to pick up the pieces and glue it together. It's broken. You aren't broken and you can't be broken. There's no such thing in the human aspect, anyway. You are a human being with a nervous system that does often try to keep you safe. It does its thing, how it knows to do it, and it doesn't always get it right. But with burnout's not a proof of failure. It's a proof of feeling things. It's your body, your spirit, and your energy waving a little white flag and saying, because I can't keep pushing how you want me to. I need some space. I need some care. I need you to just slow down or stop or listen. And when we call ourselves broken, we shut the door on possibility, on self-compassion, on the very healing that burnout is actually inviting us to do. So let's take a little wander through that today. As I just touched on, the problem with broken is a word I hear so much. I hear it all the time from clients, from women who I speak to, from myself sometimes. I've said it to myself. I feel broken. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just get it together? But the truth is, you're not a problem to be fixed. Your story, the life you're living, the business you're working in and creating, that's all still being written. And the words that we use, even intentionally, are really powerful. They shape the way we show up for ourselves. They create space for healing, or they deepen the shame spot. I'm not broken. I'm responding. My system is intelligent and it's protecting me. What I want you to do is notice if that word comes up for you. Change the word. We change the story and we change the way we move forward then, because we can breathe again and we can start to find a way forward. Now, burnout, you hear that word all over. What is it? Burnout isn't just about having a lot on your plate. It's not just about being busy. It's actually more than that. It goes deeper than that. It's a full body, like soul deep reaction to prolonged pressure, prolonged needing to perform and pain. It's your system kind of slamming on the brakes and making that emergency stop. And sometimes that looks differently for different people, but often but not, it will manifest and show itself in kind of a trauma response. So you've probably all heard of trauma and trauma responses, but just in case, we'll kind of look over the 4 trauma responses because most of us move through these responses without even realizing we're doing it. So if we have fight, like I have to battle my way through this with burnout. When you go to fight, that's when you dig deeper. You're kind of in a hole, but rather than trying to get out of that hole, which you are trying to get out of that hole, but you start doing more. You start trying to battle your way through it and taking on more. And if I was more productive, or I did this differently, or I did this as well, and that's where that fight comes in. Now, fights can look very similar, which is where if you take off and do something different, or make yourself look busy in a different way, you won't feel the thing that's caused the problem. So how this can show up for a lot of people is if you are, I don't know, launching an offer and you've got really overwhelmed and burnt out with launching that offer. And because of that, it's not quite got to the point where you wanted it to be. Instead of stepping back and looking at what's going on, you might decide to then launch another offer rather than tweaking, refining and stuff like that. You're just going to do something different. So you move on quickly. And that's what sometimes can be a flight response to burnout. Freeze is the one that I personally suffer with. Like I'm numb, I can't move. When I get burnt out really bad, and sometimes even not really bad, when the burnout and overwhelm is starting to build for me, I go into freeze mode, which is where I just get sort of analysis paralysis, if you like. I can't move, I'm numb, I can't think straight, I can't create a clear strategy. And I'm just like that rabbit in the headlights. I just don't really manage to get the things I should be doing done and the most productive way because I just shut down. The other one is fawn. And that's often, I see this a lot in mums where they'll suddenly take the focus off their business, the thing that they want to be doing and the thing that they want to work, and they'll put that energy into the kids or into their partners. And it's like, if I start faffing around and making everyone else happy and start, I don't know, meal prepping for 3 months in advance, someone else becomes happy, then maybe I'll feel safe. And it's quite a big one that actually with a lot of mums that I see, they start, I mean, I use the word faffing again because it do honestly start faffing with things that don't really matter, don't make them happy, don't move the needle in their life. They just kind of, it's like being distracted constantly. Now, we shift in and out of these stages depending on the day, the context, the stress load. And like I say, my dominant response has always been to freeze. I mean, I remember lying down on the sofa, blinds drawn, no music on, which is random for me because there's always noise, and not even knowing what music I liked anymore. I just knew that it was really strange that I was laying down in a room with the curtains drawn and like no sound because it's just not something that happens. And I realized this isn't laziness, this isn't inconsistency, this isn't not knowing what to do or not taking action. It was literally, it was part of my burnout journey and part of my overwhelm. It was just a complete system shutdown for me. My system had just gone out of the window, offline, and I was high and dry. I had no energy. I had no inspiration. I didn't know what to do, how to do it, or anything. I'm not going to lie. I didn't cure what was going on for me in that moment, but it was one of a collection of things that happened during that time that I knew I needed to take that time and space to listen to my truth, to realize that that moment wasn't the end of something. I wasn't broken. It was the beginning. It was the beginning of my journey to listening to those little whispers, listening to the clues and seeing them before I got to that point where there's just nothing. So if you've been judging your low motivation, procrastination, fatigue, and all of those things, I want you to try something differently today, because it's really easy to sit in judgment of yourself and be hard on yourself and keep pushing and pushing yourself down and further into the spiral, because what actually you are perceiving as motivation or not knowing what to do, freezing if you're like me, can actually be a calling for protection. Your body and your mind, it's all speaking to you. It's not sabotaging you. So I think we need to stop shaming ourselves in our need for softness and our need to step back sometimes and allow ourselves to listen to those little whispers, listen to those little things, and to connect with ourselves. So it's about becoming aware of what your drivers are, because this is going to look very different for each of us and different people, and slightly different at different times. But I just think, something that is a really nice reflection is to ask yourself, where have I quietly kept going, even when no one's noticed? And what would have changed for me if I'd allowed myself to stop? What if I'd listened to my body, listened to my thoughts, and just not called myself broken, not tried to push harder, not tried to do more, not frozen and shut down and then sent myself into the shame spirals? But, hand on heart, deep breath time. It's time to realize that none of us are broken. We're all just on the path of healing. And we can truly do that when we start to listen to ourselves and when we start to become aligned with the lives that we want to live and start to take that power back. As we kind of come to the close, I want to offer you like a simple way to put this into action, because it's all well and good talking about these things. And I think awareness is really important. But what we have to start to do to make changes and to get ourselves out of situations, or indeed just to avoid them, become conscious of the way we are living and how we are moving forward, is to take action. Theory without action is nothing. So a way to carry this forward today is to just choose a moment, maybe over the next week or so, and notice the language that you use to yourself. And particularly when, this is a good practice anyway, but particularly when you're busy or when the energy of feeling overwhelmed and not enough is coming up, I want you to think about, what are you saying to yourself? Are you telling yourself that you can't cope? Are you telling yourself that it's okay to rest and take a step back? What is it that you're giving, the message you're giving to yourself? And then gently replace that with, my system is responding and I'm allowed to pause. If you feel called to, write that on a post-it note. My system is responding. I'm allowed to pause. Place it where you'll see it, because you let yourself interrupt your own patterns. Find a way back to compassion. Even if it's like putting your hand on your heart and taking a few deep breaths and recentering yourself, do something that is a pattern interrupter. And remember, the goal isn't to change your behaviors dramatically in an instant, or it's to start to begin to listen to what you truly need, to start to begin to get into rhythms of life that are productive and useful and aligned with the kind of energy that you want to have and the energy that you want to put forward into the world. Because we're not just here to respond to all of these external things. And so many people are living based on what's external to them. And I really want to change that. When I work with people who are burnt out, they're overwhelmed, one of the core things that I hear so often is that they're lost. They're not living from their internal compass. They're not listening to their inner self. They are disconnected. And in order to start to get rid of those things, we need to reconnect. Our goal isn't to be someone we're not. It isn't to live life in a way that we see on Instagram or on a TV show. It's to live from our internal, heart-driven, soul-centered goals, dreams, and desires, honoring our self-care and who we are, one step at a time, one breath at a time, if that's what it takes. But bring it back to the center, bring it back to where you need to be in order to be your best self, because we've all got it within us. And there's no need to live in a burnt out, overwhelmed, stressed way. There is a better way.